format today is very simple. Each of the candidates is going to have 2 minutes to introduce themselves at the beginning. And we'll have a round of questions. I will ask the questions, and each candidate will be given an opportunity to answer a question. They'll have 2 minutes to answer each question, each of them. The moderator determines if a rebuttal is warranted, so it's not as if anybody gets to add on, but if somebody talks about something directly relevant to or refers to another candidate, they'll be given an opportunity to rebut. The timekeepers are up front there, and the candidates will get a warning, whether it's a 1-minute answer or a 2-minute answer at the 30-second mark. The candidates will be in many of these debates, so this is a good opportunity to practice. Some of them have been in many debates before, I'm sure, others perhaps not, but I would ask that you do your best to try, as much as it is difficult, to wrap up complicated answers to complicated questions in a minute or two, to finish very close to the time allotted for each question. Just wrap up when you get the red mark as quickly as you can. With that, we will start with the introductions. Each candidate has 2 minutes again, and we will do it in one order from that end to this end at the beginning, and when they get closing remarks at the end, we'll reverse it, start with David, go to Andrew at the end. So 2 minutes. Andrew, please take it away. We won't count this time.
All right, there we go. Hello, I'm Andrew Duck. I am not a politician as usual. I've never held political office. I'm a veteran who spent 20 years in the Army. The first 7 years I spent in the Army, I worked in medical administration, starting as a company clerk with the Fort Dix medical activity, ending as the NCO in charge of the Clinical Investigation Program Division, which supervised all medical research in Army hospitals nationwide. I then went on to become a Korean linguist and a military intelligence officer, and I did 3 deployments to Bosnia, and I spent time on the ground in Iraq. When I returned home to Frederick County, I became politically active, and in 2006, I ran against Congressman Roscoe Bartlett here in the 6th District. At that time, none of the other candidates were willing to do that because this was a heavily Republican district. But when I looked at it, I would quote Angela Davis. There are times when you have to accept that which you cannot change, and there are times when you have to change that which you cannot accept. Between 2006 and 2010, when I was nominated both of those years, we increased the Democratic registration in the 6th District by 9%. We did that with hard work on the ground, registering voters, getting people active. That was not enough to switch the district by itself, but it was enough to get the attention of the people in Annapolis. And so when they redistricted, they no longer used this district to pack all the Republicans into. After redistricting, we had a Democratic congressman, a Democratic governor, and a Democratic president, so I moved on to other things. For the last 5 years, I've served as the director of operations of a small green energy research company called Vertica, and we've gotten 2 patents on our conductive polymer technology. That took a little longer than I thought.
Hang on 1 second. We're just going to move the curtain so it's easier for the camera to catch the sign language. Okay, next, Nadia.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening, everyone. My name is Dr. Nadia Hashimi, and I'm a pediatrician. I'm really glad to be here tonight speaking to an issue that is near and dear to my heart. And it's actually not just near and dear to my heart. This is the very reason that I have decided to enter this race and seek to represent my district, the 6th Congressional District. As a pediatrician, I have been sitting knee to knee with children, with their families, with a mom of 3 who's delayed her breast cancer treatment out of fear for medical bills to the point where it metastasized to her brain, with a 10-year-old girl who has had to learn how to manage her blood sugars and her type 1 diabetes, and expresses to her mom that she's worried that lifetime caps will become an issue for her. Sitting with these families and working in an emergency room, I have seen firsthand the impact and the gaps in our health insurance system. We have coverage, but coverage does not equate to care. And I know where the gaps are. Just in the last 2 weeks, my husband has operated on a woman who was going from one doctor to another. She'd been recommended to have surgery for severe back pain. She was stuck on painkillers, and her surgery was repeatedly denied by Medicaid until her pain was so severe that she ended up in the emergency room. And from there, a 45-minute procedure relieved her pain. But Medicaid still wanted to deny her. So I'm here to stand up to the insurance companies who are blocking care, to the pharmaceutical companies who would rather invest in re-electing their friends. And I'm here to say, let's propose that all members of Congress enroll in Medicaid so that they can experience the coverage that they think is adequate for the very most vulnerable among us. Thank you.
Chris.
Good evening. Hello, Hood College. How you doing? My name is Chris Hersey. I guess I'm the new guy. That's what everyone keeps telling me. I am a aerospace executive and scientist who was motivated by a couple events in my life that I want to introduce myself to you and why I'm running here today. And when I was growing up, I unfortunately had a couple of incidents in my life that made it difficult for me to be where I am today. And I'm running as a Democrat, and I want to support Democrats because the social services that helped me get through school and helped me actually become a productive member of society. When I was 12 years old, unfortunately, my father overdosed on opioids in front of me and almost died. And several years later, I unfortunately got hit playing hockey and was in rehab, hurt my back, had a major concussion. My mom tried to get me the help, and many of the social services that we relied on growing up in California helped me put my life back together. I eventually went to college, pursued a degree in science. I actually graduated with a degree in mathematics, economics, and physics. I achieved 2 more Masters of Science degrees, and I ended up going to law school and pursuing an odd career for many of you, which is space law and policy. And for the last 4 years, I've worked for an innovative space company called Bigelow Aerospace. And I've been on the Hill, I've worked with Democrats, I've worked with Republicans, I know where the bathrooms are, I know where the committee staff are, I know how to harass them. Being who I am and what I've struggled through in my life, I feel that I can best serve this country, best serve you in Congress, and I hope you consider voting for me, and I look forward to speaking with you after the forum. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Roger.
Hi everyone, I'm Roger Mano. It's great to be here. I am a state senator. I represent central Montgomery County, right up the middle, in the 19th district. I've been honored to represent the folks in the 19th district for going on 8 years in the state senate. I also serve as majority whip. It's a nonviolent position. Before that, I served for 4 years in the House of Delegates. And I served for several members of Congress before that, after law school, one for Mr. Conyers, or actually Mr. Nadler from New York, on the subcommittee on the Constitution and the Administrative Law Subcommittee during law school. My first real job was for a great congresswoman from Texas, Sheila Jackson Lee. I served as her senior counsel. And then for 5 years for a congressman from Southwest Georgia, Sanford Bishop, on the Appropriations Committee. So I got a chance to see government work at the very, very high levels. But the thing that got me into this business started very early on in my life. I was born in UCLA Medical Center in 1966. I was on my mom's back in Berkeley in 1968. We were tear gassed, protesting the Vietnam War. It gave me a good preparation for the state senate. Moved to New York in 1971. My dad had no health insurance. We were poor. He was a carpenter. My mother was a student, and he walked into an emergency room on Christmas Eve, clenching his chest. You all know this story. And he was sent home. and he died alone on a cold floor because he was poor. And that economic event sent my young, beautiful mother and I through terrible times. I lived on the street. I was in a group home. And growing up, I wondered why some kids had nice clothes and had good nutritious meals, and some kids didn't. And I wanted to do something about that. And I set my life on a course to reform healthcare. And the issue that I care most deeply about is the issue that's going on in Capitol Hill right now: universal single-payer healthcare. That is establishing a right in this country, no matter who you are, how much money you have, to healthcare, just like most industrialized countries around the world. I hope you'll give me the opportunity.
Thank you. Alida?
Good evening, everyone. This past Monday, we honored a great leader in our country, if not the entire world, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. 50 years ago, Dr. King said that of all forms of inequality, injustice in healthcare is the most shocking and inhumane. That's why it's great to be here at Hood College to talk about this very important topic that affects so many of us as Americans. I want to first thank all of you for being here today, because you being here, you being engaged, that's what makes our democracy strong. I want to thank also the Women's Democratic League of Frederick for organizing this event, and to Kai Hagen, who's got a tough job of being a moderator, so thank you for doing what you're doing. And then also to every one of the candidates that are here. It's not easy putting yourself out there and trying to share the best of who you are for your community. So my husband and I live in Congressional District 6. We've raised 3 adult daughters there. So I have invested in Congressional District 6, and the community has invested in me. I'm a civil engineer, and I worked there for 25 years, making sure we can provide access to all residents. And then I'm also a Maryland State legislator that has fought for progressive values that represent Marylanders, including banning fracking, including passing paid sick leave, including raising the minimum wage, and making sure that we made medical marijuana legal in here in the state of Maryland. So these are all progressive values that I'm very, very proud of, and I heard from you that these were important to you. So Dr. King and all the Black activists who endured beatings and torture during the 1960s were able to pass the 1964 Civil Rights Act, the Voting Rights Act. In addition to that, the Immigration Act of 1965, which lifted the racial quotas so people who were non-white immigrants could finally come to the United States. As a result of that, my family and I were able to come to the United States. And at 7 years old, when I came here, I didn't know a word of English. And it was in the school system, one of the first things that was taught to me, that all men and women are created equal, that life, liberty, and happiness are the ideals that we fight for, and we should never, ever settle for anything less. But what's exactly happening at the national level? We got a president who doesn't believe these are the most important things, and we got a GOP Congress who's taking these ideals back, and I'm going to fight for you to make sure that we fight for the best things that America has to offer. Thank you.
Thank you. And finally, for our round of introductions, David Charles.
Thank you for coming out tonight, and thank you to our sponsors. The 2 topics we picked tonight, healthcare and opioids, they are the most important topics we could deal with in America right now. President Obama has moved us forward. 23 million more Americans have health care. President Trump is trying to turn the clock backwards. Opioids, 70,000 people died last year. That's the number of every man, woman, and child in the city of Frederick. We put together a 12-point plan. We'll have it offered at the back afterwards. I want to tell you a little bit about myself, my background, why I'm running. My parents graduated University of Maryland. My mom was a school teacher, and my dad was a chicken farmer, believe it or not. We raised hogs and chickens. That's where I grew up. Wheat, corn, and unfortunately, my dad also drank too much. That led to the failure of the farm. The banks took the farm. The banks took our home. My parents divorced. We started over. I went to the Wharton School for an MBA on student loans. And from there, my second semester, working to support my mother and 4 younger siblings, opened up a small beer store. That small store turned into a larger business. It's called Total Wine and More now. Total Wine and More is the greatest thing, 6,000 great jobs we've been able to create in 22 states around the country. Most important thing though is our people. Our people think long term. Unfortunately, government thinks short term. We need to think long term. We offer great wages, we offer FMLA, partner benefits, and medical. 75% of our people are full-time, unlike retail, it's only 25. As Robert Kennedy said, the purpose of life is to contribute in some way to make life better. Well, I believe that's true. And that's why I'm here. That's why I'm running. That's why it's time to get off the sidelines and stand up. I want to thank everybody for coming tonight. But these 2 issues define who we are as Americans. If we can figure out how to do these the right way and take care of our most vulnerable, that's how Americans should live and want to live, and we need to turn the clock back on Trump's behavior.
Thank you.